One of the most intriguing arguments for the existence of God, I think, is the argument that's come to be termed the argument from desire. What is that? Well, basically, the argument from desire zeroes in on the fact that we have, all of us as human beings, no matter our time and place and culture and context, there are some pretty universal desires and cravings found inside every human being. For example, we have the desire for food. We feel hunger. And that desire maps onto the fact that there is food there to meet it. So I feel hunger and I can have a tasty apple, or if my wife isn't looking, I can raid the chocolate tin and I can meet that desire. Or perhaps I have the craving for rest, the desire for rest. Well, there is such a thing as sleep that meets that desire. Or I have the desire for sexual intimacy. Well, there is such a thing as sex that meets that desire. And time again, we find that human beings have these innate desires within us that map onto things in the real world that meet them. And it's actually not just true of human beings. The same is true across the animal kingdom. So, for example, the young duckling desires to swim. Well, there is such a thing as water. Now, the young bird desires to fly. There is such a thing as air, and so on. And wherever we look across the animal kingdom, inside the human race or outside of it, these innate universal desires map onto things that are there to fulfill them. So far, so obvious. Well, now things get interesting. Because one of the things that has been remarked upon and is pretty darn obvious about human beings is that, of course, we are innately spiritual. No matter where we look through history and in culture and time and place, human beings are overwhelmingly religious. I might even cheekily suggest my atheist friends, those desires just bubble up in other places. And so human beings have always been spiritual, and we've always sought connections with something bigger than us, with the divine, with God. We have that yearning, that desire to find things like meaning and purpose and significance. So, if the desires that are innate within us map onto things that actually exist in the world, now we're really forced to one of two conclusions. Either, as human beings, we are the most mad creatures in the whole of creation. We have these desires for spirituality, but nothing exists to meet it. And basically, evolution has played a cruel trick on us. Something has gone very wrong with the human animal, such that, these desires for spirituality and so forth have nothing to meet them. Or, on the other hand, those desires fall into the same category as those desires for food and rest and sex and so on. Those spiritual desires are within us because they are designed to connect to the thing that is there to fulfill them, which is, of course, God himself. And as the famous Christian writer, theologian, philosopher Augustine, writing on this very theme some 1700 years ago, remarked in one of his most famous quotations, Augustine said, "Our hearts are restless until they find their rest in God."